Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to In Black, the Black show, LGBT show on, I don't know, every platform. I am your host, Peirrce, but of course, some of y'all know me as Peach, so it's okay to call me Peach. You know how it is, you know how I do. Um, Now, I got to give a disclaimer. Everything shared here are the thoughts and views of our panel and some of our guests that may be typing or coming onto the show and aren't necessarily the views of IME Inc., the LGBTQ plus nonprofit. Now, let's have a discussion in Black tonight. The topic is I know why you are. So in the Black community, we know everything. We know how the sky turned blue. We know why it's raining outside. We know what's in the contents of baloney. And we also know why a person is their orientation identity. But before I bring on my panel, I want to play a little clip to show you, just to give you some insight, just in case you aren't Black or you haven't had the Black experience. Okay. So remember, the topic is I know why you are. Here is the clip.
Training on
When he was like 3 or 4 years old, when we take pictures, different things, he'll pose a certain way and he does different things, and I didn't like that. And I always said, I know it was a spirit.
my hair is washed. I like it too.
Crazy, right? I know why it's a spirit. I tell you, our community is something else. So let me bring on the panel. We're gonna have this discussion tonight. Please, 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 everyone, if you could just share this out, share this live, so everybody could get this good information. I'm bringing the panel on. Hi, you guys. Everybody's here now. Last week, how this is going to work is going to work the same way it worked last week. In the big screen where you see me at is the person that'll be talking. I'll ask the question and then I'll bring each panelist up and put them on a hot seat. So before we begin, I'm going to allow everybody to reintroduce themselves or introduce themselves for the first time. Please tell us your name, your identity, your orientation, the reason why you are on In Black. So I'm going to put Andre and Zay in the hot seat.
Well, I'm Xavier. I identify as bisexual, gay, I guess. And I chose to be on this because I be interested in the lifestyle and I be learning a lot of information that I don't already know. And sometimes other people's opinions or views help you with your own things that you go through in the lifestyle.
I'm Andre. I identify as Andre. I just like what I like, and I joined the panel just to get overview of how other people think and to give my opinion on great subjects and help somebody else that may be needing to understand why they going through what they going
All right, next up on the hot seat is Smack.
Oh, how y'all doing? Y'all already know it's Smack. Smack the indie plug to a lot of y'all. Vonda Smack on the personal side. But I joined this to be able to learn and to see what others think. And just to have a good time with my blackity black folks. You feel me? What was the question?
through. You answered
Oh, what's your orientation?
Oh, everybody know I don't like labels, but I'm a lesbian. Yeah.
All right. So next up, I'm gonna put Tim on the hot seat.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tim. I'm from Philadelphia. My orientation, I identify as gay. even though I have a bisexual background or a bisexual past. The reason I'm on here is because people have a lot of stereotypes about our community and what we are and what we do. And I've never been the typical, I've never been the norm, I've never been someone that you could put into a box. So to help people just understand the things that they don't know and to just give them a general knowledge of who we are and what we experience and how they affect us in addition to how we affect them.
All right. Next up is Stan.
Okay, I'm Stan. Can you all see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because this is good on my phone. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I identify as straight male, but I only date trans women. And I'm on here just to give people an understanding about what I'm all about, and about what a lot of men like me are about.
All righty. And next up is Donna.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Donna. I'm a masculine centered lesbian. I'm also on here to learn and to meet new people and to understand their life, and for people out there listening and looking for them to understand and learn about us.
Oh. All right. So again, if you are watching, please share the live. I'm gonna give the panelists a chance to share the live. Share it with whomever. Share it on your Facebook. Share it on your Instagram. Share it everywhere. Viewers, share it, share it, share it, because the goal of In Black is to reach as many as possible, to reach and teach. How about that? We're reaching and teaching. So share the live. And so I'm going to begin with my question. First off, um, y'all all saw the video, right? Everybody could nod, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Y'all, okay, all right. So I want y'all to just keep that in mind for the last question. But I'm gonna get into the first question. So when we come out, the first people that well, not everybody, but most of us want validation from our parents, right? I know I wanted validation from my mother. So I reached out and I called her. And when I told her, she was excited. It was like, dang, did she want a LGBT child more than she wanted a regular child? Like, why is she so happy about this? Um, and so I just watch her in amazement, and she talks about how she's proud of me. And when someone goes to ask her, about me, it's just all positive. So my question to you guys, if your mom and dad was asked to explain why you identify the way that you do, what do you think your mom would say? And the first person I'm gonna put on the hot seat is Smack. What would your mom or dad say?
Man, my dad still called me his daughter, his baby girl. I'm the only girl. Be whatever you want. I still love you. That's my baby right there. She's doing these things. My dad's all right. He's all around guy. My mama back in the day would be like, I didn't teach you that. I didn't raise you like that. But now that my mother understands, like, this is me, it's always been in me. My mother is loving and supportive now. That's what they would say. They would be like, that's what makes my daughter happy. And my mother will stand up for me in a heartbeat and raise her cane if somebody disrespect me.
All right, I'm gonna put Zay and Andre on the hot seat. Y'all ready?
Yeah. All right. My mother we had these conversations,
Uh, we got Zay and Andre on the hot seat. Not you, not yet, Stan.
Oh, okay.
Well, for me, my dad always tell me that be proud of me. he happy, but he calls me the weird child, but he has his reasons. And so it's not more so like that's my weird child because what he likes. It's more so of the things that I do and how I act. Like I can turn it on and be have my mind set as this how men would say it, or then I have my mindset like this is how it would come from the women's view. And then for my mom, like growing up, she used to be like asking me questions based on the friends that I would have, and be like, "Oh, well, do you want to try that lifestyle, or why do you keep bringing all these random people around that I've never seen before?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't want to be in that lifestyle. I just want to, be around different people." But then it got to a point where when I actually was like, "Oh well, mom, I think I'm gonna just date men," she was like, "Oh, okay. Well, thanks for telling me, but I already figured it out." But by you saying it out of my mouth, it's more so because my family is more all women. We don't have too many boys. So the few boys that we do have, they're all pretty much on the LGBTQ side.
Right.
For me, my dad found out recently, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. But he was good. He was just like, you do what you do. If it makes you happy, it makes me happy. And whoever you date, tell them if they do you dirty, they got to deal with me. Which I thought was hilarious because my dad is not really a fighter. My mom, on the other hand, when I first discussed it with her, discussed my lifestyle with her, she had a hard time accepting it because of a personal, like a family loss we had. And she immediately went back to the loss of how we lost the person. And so she immediately, went into like a small depression, but then she, slowly got over it. She's more accepting of it now than ever. I can say like out of everybody I've been with, this one somehow was the first person she's liked. I have no idea, but she is now like, if she calls me, she'll say, "Where's my other child at?" My mother has never called nobody dated her other child, so it means a lot more now than it did when I first came up.
Nice.
That's what's up. I love that.
Oh, me?
You're
Yes.
in the hot seat, Stan.
Oh. um, honestly, we never really had conversations like that with me growing up. Um, it just never. I kind of, like I said, presented myself, and so it never became a conversation until a lot of years later, and I actually I got into a long-term relationship, and that was the thing I was more concerned about was how my mother would look at it, more so because I didn't want to disappoint her in certain ways. But um, my girlfriend was trans. My mother totally accepted it, never brought it up. They were like the best of friends. And my mother just said, it's just a matter of whether I was, it's, as long as you're happy, that was the main thing. She'd rather see me happy as I am than if I just sat back and just did like with like a cis woman or something, and wasn't happy. So my mother was always happy with my choice and accepted
All right. Next up, we got Donna in the hot seat.
Hey, always.
it.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I grew up in a single parent house. My father. I never knew my father. He was never around. He left my mom when she was pregnant. Um, so it was just me, my mom, and my brother. So, like I said, my mom already knew I was. She knew from public school. She already knew I was a tomboy, and she knew when I told her when I came out and told her. Like I said, she was a little, no parent is always going to be, oh yeah, my child is, she was a little, hurt, but she knew. But she accepted me. Um, I lived with her when I got back from the military, and she accepted me. I had no problems. And like I said, my childhood, my adulthood, everything was like I had no issues. Nothing. We
Next
just
up,
perfect.
Tim.
Perfect.
Tim, you in the hot seat.
Okay. Um. Well, I grew up in a single parent family situation. My mother worked a lot, and my mother wasn't a talker. You did what she said, and that was it. You didn't discuss anything. So of course, we never had a chance to discuss anything. So I went. I was dealing with guys and girls till I turned 15, and then I started going more so in the direction of men. And when I finally moved out, I went and picked up my grandmother and my mother one day, and I told them, and they both said, "Well, I think it's just a phase that you're going through."
Mm.
Until my mom met my first boyfriend, and we moved in together, Vonda Donnie, and he was the most feminine little thing. When I first met him, I thought he was a girl, and my mother had always been indifferent towards me until she met Donnie, and then we had a relationship again because she liked Donnie, which confused me. But I took the time with my mother either way. So I was always raised as the man in the house, as the man of the house, and that was my role from 6 years old. So my mother knew, and she told me later in life I was so hard on you because I could see certain things in you, and I didn't want you to go that way. She said, but now that I see you as a grown man, you're respectful. You're not out on the streets. You're not, into any illegal thing. You're not on drugs. You out here. You making a way for yourself as a man, just like you were raised. And even though my mother didn't like it, it was easier for her to live with and accept because I came home every time to visit as the son that she raised, even though I was an entertainer and I was on stage doing things completely opposite of how she raised me. So it was a process. It was a process. When I in 2002 I did VH1. It was a show, Boys Will Be Girls, and it was about males who were drag entertainers. And I took my mother on there, and my mother was straight from the country, and she was raised that all this type of stuff is wrong. But when she actually saw what I did as an entertainer, she gave me complete respect. And that's when she backed off and started treating me like her son again, if that makes sense.
I get it because Tim and I grew up.
Wow.
Tim
That
and I grew
that's
up in the same area, so I definitely get it what he's saying about his mom. I get it.
Like
Yeah.
when Vonda was part of my beginning in the lifestyle. When
Yep.
my first couple of years in the lifestyle, I was going out and hanging around with Vonda and different friends from my hometown. So me and Vonda
Yep.
go way back. So she knows my mother, and
Hmm.
she knows. She knows
She thought me and Tim were dating.
because we were close because we were just figuring out each other.
Yep.
Because Vonda was a little tomboyish, but I never paid attention to it. And then one day, I don't know what the topic was, and we just started talking. And then once I found out I wasn't the only one, Vonda became like a safe haven because I could talk to
Mhm.
Vonda about things that I couldn't talk to anybody else about.
Yep.
And then eventually, I started making more friends.
Yep.
wow, that is beautiful. So y'all two were a safe space for each other.
Yep.
And
Right.
that's great when you're trying to come out. It helps to make it easier. So I'm glad that y'all had each other.
Yep.
Not
And
all
here,
of us was fortunate to have
one more
somebody.
thing.
Well,
One
you
more
know,
thing. When I started entertaining, the first person that was out there to tip me, to give me my first dollar, my first time on stage, Smack.
Yeah.
Right there, my very first time. I still have it on videotape.
Well, don't show that videotape. Don't give it
I
to
ain't gonna
her.
show it.
Oh Lord, y'all, let's get to the next question. Y'all always acting up. I tell y'all, this panel, we were acting up before the show started.
Right.
So that goes to show, the camaraderie, how this is going to work, how everything will flow. And I guarantee you that if you are watching now or will watch later, you will learn something, you will laugh, and you probably might feel like one of us are your friends on here, right? Because
Mhm.
we just that open and honest and candid. So the next question, and like I said before we started the show, you can easily bypass a question and say, that's too difficult for me. No answer is an answer. And I think our audience will respect it. And I know I will. Um, so the next one, I know why you are. The black community has reasons as to why we ended up the way that we are. So the next question is, there is a common belief within our community, right? That LGBT people or trans attracted people stems from trauma or some type of abuse.
Hmm.
Um, is that something that any of you personally experienced? If you don't mind sharing, I'll put you up on a hot seat. And if it's too much, just say, you know what, I want to bypass. And I'll totally understand because this is a very sensitive question. So I'm going to reach for Stan. First person on the hot seat, Stan. Did you experience any type of trauma or abuse?
No, never did. Um, I grew up just curious about things. Um, and I was, like I said, never abused or anything. I was, even I remember at 13, even in high school, I would even, uh, and this is really for real, I would even seek out grown people to try to experience uh, sex with. You know, I would go to places where I knew gay men, hung out. And I mean, this is real. I mean, it was never abuse, but I just always my sexuality I knew, and I would even go places that even with grown men that I would approach to have sex with would sit back and like, hey, no way, you like 13, 12 years old type thing. And this is real. I mean, but that's what I saw because that's what my desires were. But it had nothing to do with abuse. I was actually one abusing them pretty much, you know, and that was a situation where I was seeking those things out. So I would go to places where I knew, like I went to the park, where I knew guys would hang out there, just to try to get that experience. And I did, and I was 12, 13 years old, you know. But there was no abuse on my part, but it was just something I was looking for. I could have, and the men that did things with me, you could have called it abuse, but I knew what I was doing, because they didn't pursue me, I pursued that. So I was gonna say no, it wasn't abuse, but at that age, and I'm sure people that some people I don't know, but that say that they've been abused, sometimes they put themselves in certain situations, and that's the way I don't know that, but I can say because if my mother came to me or if I got traumatized by it, I can easily say I was abused, but I was the one that pursued it, and I did at an early age, and I sought that, and I went around it, so. But as far as the abuse part go, no, no, you know, I was the aggressor in those things, and I was looking for a grown man to do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stan. The next person I'm going to bring onto this hot seat is Andre and Zay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, for me, I wouldn't. It's a little bit of both. So it's like by me growing up with like mom always at work and dad was just not there. For me, it was more so like I felt like I'm gonna go to the man because I'm filling in that void that I'm missing. But at the same time, it was like for me, I wasn't opposed to messing with men. I was getting touched on by an older cousin because we were the only two boys of the family. So for me, it would be more just like it would traumatize me. But then after a while of it happening so much in my mind, it's like, well, maybe this is how life is supposed to be with male on male content. And then when it came to the women, because I always hung out outside, it was like I messed with fast people, so I experiment at an early ages. But it didn't make me determined to be like, I'm gonna just mess with a man, I'm gonna mess with a woman. That's why I always kept myself open to be bi, because to me, I felt like the older I got, it's not so much of like I urge for the guy or I urge for the woman. For me, I don't see any of that. So it's just like whatever you show me or how you make me feel, then I'm gonna show that back in returns. Whether it be the man, it be the woman. I'm not gonna say I've never been into trans, but I've tried it. But it's more so, I guess, how the people make you feel. I don't necessarily see it as like because you're a man messing with a man that's gay or a woman messing with a woman. It's more based on everybody's the same and how I make you feel, or do you feel comfortable enough to be open with me in life?
Um, for me, I wasn't touched. I mean, I've had two encounters where I was sexually assaulted, but for me, it didn't determine who I was. Like Zay, it was just really based off of like who made me feel like I was valued, and that's who I chose to talk to. Um, been married, had plenty girls, haven't had plenty men, but it's one of those things that if you can make me feel like I'm valued and you can make me feel like we can grow and we need each other to survive, I'm with you for the long run. We're not even asking no questions. Like, let's go. And so for me, it's just at this point, it's I've had more connections with the men that I've dated than I did with the females. Um, I think a lot of that too, though, for me is because I lost my wife, and that after she passed, I kind of cut off even wanting to be with a female because the females I talked to, they weren't her. So you go to that other side, that curiosity side, and that bisexual side kicked in, and I said, well, since I can't get another her, let's go find me a male that can actually satisfy what needs to be satisfied, and then also fulfill what needs to be fulfilled.
Thank you, you guys. Next up, I'm gonna put Donna on a hot seat. Thank you.
My mom, like I said, I grew up just with my mom. She didn't have many men around us. Me and my brother, only one man that was around us that I kind of like gravitated to like a father figure. But no trauma. I think I was just came out my mom's vagina this way. I was born to be this way. It was no trauma, no touching. Um, I was in the military. I seen a lot of women when I was in Kuwait get was raped. I didn't happen to me, thank God. But no trauma. Just everyday living, happy. No, none of that. No trauma at all. No touching. No giving no not touching nobody. Me not never had a boyfriend. Always was into women. So yeah, just no trauma. Like I said, my life was good.
Thank you, Donna. Next up, I'm gonna bring up Smack.
Um, I feel like I came out of my mama's womb this way. May it took a
Amen.
long time for me to say, hey, come out the closet. But I feel like I came out of my mama's womb this way because I love to play house and I was always the daddy. Um, as far as trauma, that's one thing a lot of people and even some celebrities out here think that people are gay because, you know, we've done had some trauma in our life. That trauma doesn't always equate to that. So that's one like thing that I hate, stereotype that I hate that they make about our community that someone had to touch us or we've been through trauma. And I can't really I've had some situations, and I don't want to speak about it on air, but I've had some situations, but they don't define who I am today or made me, I was already um I already knew what I liked when these situations happened. So I can't say that because those things happened to me is why I am who I am today. Nah, that doesn't define me, the situation that has happened in my life.
Thank you, Smack. Next up is Tim.
Before before I answer mine, I just want to say one thing. I'm not speaking from a bitter place when I tell you these things. Um, I've been through therapy and I understand a lot about my mother's decisions now than I did when things were happening to me and I was living through them. Um, my mother was a young mother and she was trying to work and still party at the same time. And a lot of times my mom would make bad decisions. And she would drop me off with people that she knew, or rather, people that she partied with. And sometimes she would leave me there 2 or 3 days at a time. And she wouldn't leave anything with me or for me. She would just disappear. And when you leave a child in situations like that, number one, the people who that child is dumped on have animosity. And they take it out on that child, number one. Number two, just because somebody is cool and you know them and you party with them, that doesn't mean that that's somebody that's okay to leave your kids with. So between ages and 5 and 10, I was molested by men and women. So it wasn't until I got like around 13 that I started noticing that I was attracted to my girlfriends and their brothers. And I was raised to be a certain kind of man, so I couldn't explore my feelings as far as men were concerned. But I hear a lot of people that are gay say, yes, I'm gay, I was born this way. But I really question if those things hadn't happened to me, would I be this way? Because I didn't really reverberate really well in the gay community because I didn't have much in common with the people that were around me. Like I was raised in a little town, so prostitution was not a thought for me. Hard drugs was not a thought for me. Bathhouses, all those things that my friends were doing in the community were not a thought for me. And those things that happened to me as a child have affected my relationships with my friends as well as my family because I have this thing about being touched. And if I don't invite you to touch me, it makes me uncomfortable. It presses buttons. And I know that that's from being molested. And I had to deal with it by myself. I had a couple of younger siblings to protect and nobody to talk to. and I just had to sit on it until I was old enough to get out of the house. So, whereas a lot of people say that they were born this way, I don't think so. I don't think that if those things had happened to me, I think that was something that was introduced to me before I should have even been thinking about sex. And they interfered with my process of naturally being able to choose. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. I understand. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for being candid and honest
Mm.
and inviting us to share with you, just to share with us so we could take it in.
Hmm.
And I really thank you. And I think the audience needed to hear that too. Because again, all of our journeys are different.
And
Um,
that's what people need
and
to understand.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Questions. That was a question. So we got through the hard questions.
Right.
That the two hardest ones that I personally was worried about. And Donna reminded me last week that I didn't personally answer the question, so I will answer this one. No, there was no trauma. From a little girl, I've always known that I was just open to love. I was attracted to people based on their souls, just based on how good of a person you were. Um, Not necessarily a body, but just the energy and the spirit of the person. So the next question,
Great
which will
answer,
be a
host.
whole lot lighter. Uh,
That's
A
a
whole lot
great
lighter.
answer, host.
Woosa. Woosa.
yes, let's woosah down because that was a heavy question. But
Right.
I'm glad we had a chance to discuss it because that's the reality of our community. Our community thinks all types of reasons as to why we are the way that we are. Um,
Right.
so the next question is I find it kind of silly, and I know you guys heard it growing up or whatever. Um,
Let us have it.
if you did you turn out the way you are because you was raised by the opposite sex parent? So if you female, if you was raised by your father, did you look up to him so much that it made you want to be a part of the community and vice versa? Um, Come on now, you know this happens in
Well,
our
I don't know
community,
my
right?
father,
This
so
is a conversation. So I'll
uh,
put you up first,
I
Donna.
can't. I can't even answer that because, like I said, I didn't know my father. I didn't grow up with my father, so it was always my mother and my brother. It was always us, and like my mother's brother and my mother's sister. We would always, be around my aunt. But no, I didn't get it from no male or no man. It was just me. It just all me. I wasn't grown
Oh,
up. I don't know my father at all, so
okay.
I can't even answer that one.
Stan,
just
Stan, you
you.
up in the hot seat. Are you that way because you was raised by your mom? Is that why you trans attracted? It's just
My
our
mom,
community.
she was a gorgeous woman, but no, that wasn't it at all. It was, I mean, it's something I can't, like I said, I can't explain it. It had nothing to do with how I was raised, anything, because I was raised what I would just call pretty normal, but I was just curious about certain things and my feelings. Um, so, um, and everything that I felt, it's just like in your life. If I was to die today, anything that I ever fantasized about in my life, I fulfilled it. and I've done it. And so I would never, I would not die and say, wow, what if I did this? What if I did that? Everything I thought about doing any fantasy, I fulfilled it. And whether I liked it or
Okay.
not, I did it. But it had nothing to do with how I was raised. It was just me, and that's my mother didn't raise me a certain way and didn't raise me to believe a certain thing. Um, it was just me. I had desires, even, as a young kid, 11, 12 years old, and I didn't sit around waiting for people to try to define who I was. I had to define that for myself. And that's the things that I saw. I think that's even how my mother was proud of me growing up, is because it took a lot off of her, because she felt like, wow, I didn't have to sit back and try to explain this to him. He did it on his own, So, and I was just always that kind of person. So, but it wasn't I was raised a certain way, and she tried to raise me. I think we had a conversation one time about my father. My father wasn't never around. I would see him. But one thing she told me was that she thought he had relations with men, and that was one of the things I thought that one time we had a discussion, and she just asked me, because he stayed in a rooming house at one point, and it was a gay rooming house. And when I go see him, she asked me about it. And I told her, I said, well, a lot of men would say things to me, but I didn't look at it one way or another. All she wanted to do was fulfill her mind that it wasn't anything she did, or if it was something that came from my father. So,
Oh.
what I'm saying? It was, it's kind of complicated, but it's not complicated because I didn't think much about what he was doing. And it didn't get to me like, oh damn, if my dad is doing stuff like this, I'm like that. I never had those conflicts. Uh, he was involved in certain kind of things. So, but my mother and I did have that one conversation, and it was had nothing to do with how she raised me. Had nothing to do with him, how I saw him. It was just me. So I never said, hey, I seen this, and oh my, you did this to me. No, it was never nothing like that. It was just me, so, but, and I know people go through a lot. With me, especially dating trans women, I know all the things that are going on with them, and being raised and being molested, and, being a feminine person, and you got relatives that take advantage of that. I've seen that. I've seen the damage that it's done, and that's why I can sympathize with the trans community like I do, because these women have gone through a lot, and in transitioning, and then the things we're talking about are things that they've had to go through: trauma, being molested by a family member, those kind of things. So, I can sympathize with it totally. I'm just fortunate that I never had that kind of trauma. So I didn't. So no, Mom, I turned out the way I did because of me.
Thanks, Stan.
I'm the only one
Thank you.
responsible.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for being an advocate for the trans community, as many of us on this panel are. So next up in the hot seat is Andre and Zay.
For me, in a short answer, no. I was raised, I was raised by my mom, but my grandfather was heavy in my life. I chose to date who I wanted to date because I had the freedom to do it. Period. Nothing to do with a single parent. You know, dad, God bless him. he was never here. He was he was locked up, and if that's what made his soul happy, so be it. But my granddad was always here, and my granddad always taught me as a child, you do what makes you happy, and this what made me happy. So he was the first one I told that this was my decision. Uh, and before he passed away, he said, "You keep doing what makes you happy, but get you somebody that you're going to commit to until you die." And that's what I've been working on. So, you know, pop out happy damn.
Well, for me, I didn't grow up in the house with mom or with dad. I grew up in the house with grandma, but grandma didn't bring like company over. Like I see she had friends, but it wasn't like I never seen them on no lovey dovey type things. But when it did came out to me figuring out who I wanted to be, whether if I wanted to be, well, I'm gonna say it in the words of like if I wanted to be the normal or the non-normal person. But I don't know how you justify like because I'm gay, I'm not normal, or because I'm straight, I'm normal. So for me, it was like the family background that my mother came from, well, that my dad came from was more so like they were against people who were different. If you didn't like the same thing, then like you're an outsider to the family. So when it came to like me trying to figure out if I wanted to be with men or women, my mom would like always find things like maybe I'm talking to a boy or maybe I'm talking to a girl. Or I done wrote a letter or I wrote something in a journal that was like not the normalized thing of men and women. So that made me be like, oh well, if I be gay, maybe my mom's not gonna accept it. But she used to say little stuff like, well, if we called your dad and told your dad about this, how do you think he's gonna feel? What do you think he's gonna say? And I used to be like, well, the man's not even around, so how can he say anything? But at the end of the day, don't y'all want y'all child to be happy? Because I realize a lot of people in our community take themselves out because they feel like from their family, like you don't accept me because I'm not the child that you raised. But I don't understand how you raise a man or a woman to like what they like. They don't have to physically see it, it's just more so of a feeling that they have. Like I was around a man, and this is the vibes that I got. Versus I tried it with a woman, and these were the vibes I got. But my aunt had this friend. She was from Barbados, and she used to always say to me, like, you don't have to be gay. There be women out there who will do stuff to you or make you feel the same way as what the man could do. But I never understood it till I got older. So to try it from different sides of the world, it made me be like, okay, I'm confused on which one I'm supposed to be with. But for me, it was more so like this one made me feel nice, and that one made me feel better. But it was like, what did they show you? What did they actually put out there?
Right. Thank you. I'm gonna put Vonda in the hot seat.
All right. So in my teenage years is when I came out. I got tired of hiding it. I ain't gonna lie to you. And my mom called she's like, "What, are you a dyke now?" I said, "No, I'm a lesbian." And that's how I came out. I'm gonna keep it real. And I just got tired, and I guess it was through rebellion a little bit because I was doing everything, y'all, like going to church, and I was going to church too much for my mom thought I was going to visit, see some boy, but I actually had a crush on somebody in the church. Excuse me, Lord. And you know, when my mom came out that way because my manager at McDonald's was someone I had a crush on, and they had a crush on me. That's how, uh, you know, I lost my
Oh Lord.
virginity, my first time. And so
Wait,
my
wait.
mom would see that I was always with this person. And my mom was like, when she came out and said that, "So you a dyke now?" I was like, "No, I'm a lesbian." And I said it with attitude. And she was like, "What did you say? Oh, you can't stay." That's how it came out. And so I'm going to say, yeah, breaking it to my mom, it came out of rebellion. And then she called my dad, and my dad said he didn't care. And I think that was the point. Like, he's like, "It's still my daughter. I'm still going to love her. I don't care as long as she happy." And then when it got to my grandmother basically, they Dotsons. You know, My
So
grand, it was like,
basically you wasn't raised by your dad, you was raised by your mom.
yeah.
So you weren't affected
Well, my
by
dad
the
had me
opposite
every weekend.
sex. Okay.
My dad had me every weekend, and my dad was a baseball coach, basketball coach. I wanted to be everywhere my dad was. My dad, that's how I learned sports from my dad. And I think sometimes people in the family blame my dad because I was a daddy's girl. You know, summertimes I was with him every summer, and you know, whenever we had basketball practice, I'm there shooting with the team as a little girl. But I've always been a tomboy, never smiled when I had a dress on. Any picture you see me in a dress as a little girl, my face is scrounged up. I am not smiling and not in their picture, for real. And
Okay.
I'm keeping it all the way real. But I think, you know, because of how my mother was raised by my grandmother and grandfather, they come from that deep church background, and that's how they raised my mom and my uncle. Whereas my dad, it wasn't like that. Yeah, we go to church or whatever, but my dad, the smack side of family just taught you to love everybody, no matter what. That's your family. You still love on them. But the only thing for me, as long as my mom, dad, brothers, my immediate family okay, then I was okay. I didn't care what my cousins and all of that thought, but my cousins, they accepted me too. So I didn't really have too many problems. The only problem I had was with my mom. She felt like I let her down because I'm the only girl like girls. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
So
Thank you.
you
You
welcome.
Let's bring on Tim.
um, I'm gonna say, growing up in a single parent household with just my mother, it pushed me in this direction. Um, because my relationship with my mother damaged me in a way where I always had a hard time trusting females. Um, with my emotions, you know.
Okay.
I can be with a woman, I can satisfy a woman, but I can't bring it I can't bring myself to relinquish my heart to a woman because of how bad I've been abused by women in my life. Um, and not having a father around, young black men learn from imitating and emulating a male figure. That's how we become. That's a large part of how we become the person that we become by the male figures that we have to model ourselves from growing up. And a lot of single mothers feel that they have to be harder on their son so their son doesn't turn out to be soft. But what I found out is women equate masculinity to being mean. And the things that single mothers do to their male sons that they think is toughening them up is actually destroying their trust in women. It's destroying their respect for women because you are the model that I have to build from. You're the model I have to emulate from, and you're nasty and you're disrespectful to me all the time. And you think that is being tough on me like a man would, and it's not, because there's a certain amount of love and bonding that goes into a male and a male relationship. And being mean doesn't emulate that. It leaves a void.
All right.
So I'm not coming at single mothers at all. We realize single mothers, the positions that most of you were left in. So this isn't a stab at with single women that are raising kids by themselves, but it's a reality check on what you think you're doing to your son as opposed to what you are actually doing to your son. And later on in life, a lot of women who are mean and disrespectful to their male children, that's how the male children treat the women that they join with in life. And the whole time, these women are saying, I didn't raise you to be like that, but through that young man watching how you treated him and how you talked to him, you did teach him how to be like that. You taught him how to be exactly like that. So yes, it's a lot of things about the single parent situation that I do think it made me easier to cruise in this direction.
Thank you, Tim. Wow, that question was a loaded one. I didn't think that question was going to be as loaded. But listening to Tim, I'm sure it made all of y'all think back, right? Tim, you make people think. And for
Right,
me, just hearing you, I thought about my childhood. I grew up in a two-parent household with my grandparents, and my mother and father weren't around. But I always navigated towards my grandfather. He was my hero. And my
right,
grandfather always would say, I see something in you, and I have to raise you to be independent. I have to raise you to not want to rely on any male, and I need you to be strong, resilient, and have a voice. I cannot have you be, I love my wife, but I don't want you to be her. I want you to be able to do other things because I see life being different for you. So I wonder, based off of what you said, did he condescend me on my journey? So that's something to think about.
right.
Thank you, Tim. Thank all of y'all. It's just, wow, this panel, this is just awesome. And I'm glad that this show idea manifested in my mind because I'm learning a lot. And I'm
Yep.
sure the viewers are learning a lot. Are you guys learning a lot
Yep.
from
I
Absolutely.
actually I
listening
like
to
I
you?
Yeah.
like views. I like
Yeah.
what he voiced and what he says because when he was saying that, I actually that was in my head because I actually felt that because it was the same way for me. So I felt like when it comes to the women being hard on their sons, it's like I'm gonna be harder on you because I don't you don't have that male figure. So this is what you need to be like. This is how you need to be. Versus the fact of like it's okay to show us that sensitivity. So because you don't show me that sensitivity, that makes me view you in a different point of view.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. And then I saw it as the reverse, a male being harder on your girl child,
Right.
expecting a lot out of me, whereas he didn't really raise my mom or his other daughter to be like that. And even my brother didn't have the responsibilities or wasn't like I was even left with his hopes and dreams. Okay, I'm dying, so now you have to figure out a
Right.
way to push us forward,
Hmm.
to keep our generation going and look out for everybody else. And I have carried that with me. And Vonda, we're in the relationship, she'll tell you it's a lot of decisions that I make that she don't necessarily understand, but it's almost as if I'm carrying the mantle as if I'm the patriarch.
Mhm.
Huh?
So it's a heavy weight. If it's heavy for men, imagine how it feels for a woman to
Right.
Right,
feel like that. It's stressful.
Absolutely.
It's
right, right.
what you were saying.
All right, so the next question. This is lighter. Hopefully, this is lighter. This got to be lighter, right? These are heavy. All right. So this is the funny one, actually, to me. In our community, right? I don't know about the white community. I'm not white. I don't frequent white spaces like that. Um, but we believe in conspiracy theories, right? The
Yeah.
water done turned us gay. Um, the red dye and
The food.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, the
The,
food.
the government had an agenda. Are any of y'all gay because of a government conspiracy or trans attracted or whatever your orientation? Did it happen because of some type of conspiracy? And can you tell me a conspiracy that you heard of? Like I just told you two, the
The food.
water
The food.
and the red dye in the cherry Kool-Aid.
Ah,
I'm gonna put Vonda in the hot seat first.
Well, you already took mine. The water. I think it was like they were trying to say chemicals in the water where people live made us this way. I think that's the first one I ever heard. Um, like the government put something in the pipes. I'm like, you really think the government came and they put, I'm just thinking, when I heard it, I'm like, okay, yeah, they really went through all the trouble to put take a Doppler and drop something into the water that go to all the houses. I said, y'all sound dumb. But that was like the first thing, chemicals put into our water. That's why we're this way.
Thank you, Vonda. I'm gonna put Donna. Or all right. So
no,
is there a
I
conspiracy,
heard the food.
Donna?
I heard the food. The food
We
was
don't we don't see your face. You got to bring your camera up or down.
oh,
We
Yeah,
see.
we
let's turn
can't
it
see
on.
his
Let's turn it
face.
on.
Yeah,
'Cause
go
that's the
ahead. We
only
got you.
way it's gonna work. No, I've heard the
Okay.
food. I've heard the food that I even heard some vaccines. I heard all kinds of stories. Food, yeah, definitely the food and like you said, the water, but um that's the only thing I heard and just or I don't know, it could be the chromosomes too, chromosomes, So it's a lot. I don't believe in none of that. Like I said, people make up stories to divine trying to figure out what we about. They people don't understand us, and that's why it's so hard for people to even respect the community because they really don't understand us. So but yeah, I've heard crazy stuff about like different stuff, but nah, it wasn't the food, it wasn't no dye, it was no water, none of that for me. Like I said, I was born this way. I don't care. Nobody said nobody can't change my mind.
All right, Stan,
I'm
you
there
up
with
next.
you.
No conspiracy, no water, none of that stuff. I didn't. I never went. No, I never. Why? How could they choose my water or the water in my neighborhood? And all this kind of stuff. No, not at all. So.
Wait, Stan,
Mhm.
what state do you live in?
Huh?
Oh, I
What
thought
state?
you were in Detroit. I thought you were in Detroit. Never mind.
No, I'm in Atlanta.
Atlanta. All
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
the water down here, especially in Atlanta. Yeah.
So I'm gonna put
Not
Tim on the
everything
hot
special
seat.
down here. Woo.
Mhm.
Tim, conspiracy theories to depopulate the black population, to depopulate the black community.
But
Any conspiracy theories?
that house music will make you gay.
I believe
I
that.
swear, I swear on everything I love. People used to tell me that when I was growing up, and I was like, "Well, how is house music gonna make you gay? Well, all house music isn't gay. All house music ain't the same."
I ain't never heard that one.
Oh my God.
House music
I,
just got
I
like
heard that.
I know straight
a lot
people
of
who like
Vogue
house
type
music.
No, I
people.
read something
Okay.
today. Just talking about house music out of Chicago. That's where I'm from.
Right.
That it created people being gay. I was seeing that today online. That
Oh
yeah,
God.
house music started off as disco, and gay
That's
people.
that's not true, right?
I read this. They
House
were doing the
That's
music.
history of house music, and house music. I guess it started out of Chicago,
that's our preference,
Nah,
but
they did not
and
start out of Chicago. No, we
see,
can't
I'm
give y'all
telling
You
you,
that
know
man.
credit,
what?
baby. Bring it back to
Listen.
Maryland. They did not start out of
Google
Chicago.
house music.
Look,
House
y'all.
music started in Baltimore.
All right.
We
Listen, y'all,
having fun.
we gotta get back to the question because we having
Yeah,
too
but
much
house
fun.
music ain't make you gay.
Y'all's music definitely ain't making you gay.
Right.
Let me bring on Andre and Zay. They gonna tell me some other stuff because see, Tim always getting something started. Tim, Zay, Andre, y'all in the hot seat. We heard any of this stuff.
I blame Gerber. Nah, I'm just um I've heard, something in the water, something in the Similac, something in the everything. But
Similar.
I just believe people gonna be who they are. You know what I mean? And it's up to us to choose to either love them for who they are or step out of their lives and be okay with your life.
Okay. Well, see, that was a fun question.
Government cheese. That
Right.
USDA cheese did it.
Oh my God, the
I was
government
gonna
And
say that. I
now
was
you
gonna
have
Well,
to
say
drink
then
government,
milk
everybody
government
anymore.
should be
cheese.
gay then, because
Oh my
there should be
I
no
was
God.
saying it
straight
was that
person on
government
this earth.
cheese and the peanut butter, but I left it alone.
It should
Oh
everybody
my
should be gay
God.
then.
Oh my God.
Both of them
So
was good
no
for the teeth and
conspiracy theories are we all agree none of the conspiracy theories made us our identities,
No,
right.
orientation,
No,
dictated
listen,
our attractions.
nah,
look.
never.
It's like this. I never paid any attention to any of those things because one of Jesus' seven disciples that sat in the painting of the Last Supper, one of them was gay.
Yes, sir.
We've been here since the beginning. We ain't nothing create us.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
it wasn't no chemicals. It wasn't the water. It wasn't house music. You
It was
know,
the
it,
mind.
we
It
ain't
was the
just show up one day and say, we ain't just show up one day and say, hey. No, it didn't happen like that.
Right.
It didn't happen like that.
Nah,
it was that
because
new
everybody
status
would be
Jesus.
gay.
Sit it down, boo. It didn't happen like that.
No,
Let's go to the next question. See, this panel, listen, people that watch this is gonna want to join this panel because y'all are really off the chain.
I really am enjoying this group of people. Like y'all are enjoying me, but I'm enjoying y'all just as much. Like I'm loving this.
same here. Same here.
So
We
the
look,
next
can I
question.
say I know you trying to get to your next question, but we doing this in your flow. But if you let us go, we're gonna have this whole live. People gonna be tuned in, gonna have them going wild. We being good right now.
We've been excellent.
We being have.
Y'all behave so we could get through these questions, and then in the end, we could all pop up on the screen. We
Yeah.
Right.
gotta get to the meaty stuff. We gotta answer these questions. We gotta let these homophobes know what they
Right.
thinking ain't right. All
Right.
right. So the next question, this one to me is funny too, right? Witches, ghosts, and goblins, right? You know the black community is so superstitious, right? We are all they're superstitious, ultra religious, ultra spiritual, right? Am I lying, y'all? Y'all know this is the truth.
Yep.
So my question is, are any of y'all possessed? Are y'all in a spiritual battle? Is it a demon lurking in y'all closet? Is this the reason why y'all are identifying the way that y'all are as some evil entity that's getting at y'all possessing you or talking to you at night, tickling your toes? I'm gonna put Andre and
I
Zay up
I think we
first.
could all answer that in unison, to be honest.
No, no, people got they want to say, hey, y'all got an evil entity in y'all body, a demon. If you did, would you admit it?
Yeah.
No, nobody's business.
Now,
Nobody's business but
you said
mine.
that kind of fast. Uh, I mean, Tim already
Nobody's
pretty
business.
much said it. Like there has been homosexuality has existed since the beginning. Um, I'm a firm believer as an apostle. I'm a firm believer that Jesus is love, and Jesus came to teach love, and he came to teach it based upon himself. Like I'm the prime. He was the prime example of what love looked like. And he said, "With loving kindness have I drawn thy to me." So if if he can say, "I don't care," it don't matter what you're going through. I'm the one who's drawing you to me. I wish somebody would tell me I was demon possessed. Like my anointing is way too strong for that. And so I'm very particular with this because we're in that day and age where everything in the, especially in the black church, relates around homosexuality, relates around lesbianism, relates around trans community, but nothing relates around the pastors who sleep at, never mind, we're not gonna go there tonight. But we have to just be real and call it for what it is. You know, like it's like, you know, I'm married, but I got my secretary, I got my deaconess, I got my, you know, and so, you know, if being a hoe didn't come from the water you drink, then being who I am and loving who I love is not because I'm demon possessed. You know, I'm not no less demon possessed than the deacon who's sleeping with everybody in the church. You know, and so we're gonna call a spade, call it for what it is, but don't call it for what the foolishness. And then the other thing that bothers me with the black church is we believe a bunch of man-made doctrine, but none of us read the word for real. Can we just call a spade a spade? And
Yeah.
so if you come at me with Bible, I respect you with Bible. But if you come at me with foolishness, the Bible declares a dumbass spoke.
You and
So
Timothy.
I go to church now.
I'm done.
Preach, preacher. Preach, preacher. You got me hyped up in here.
Zay, you got anything you want to say today?
No, that was it right on the nose.
Well, I
They
think
said
you
I
said
ain't
it
even
for
touching that.
everybody.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Everybody, you
bring
said
up
that.
smack in the hot seat.
Mm-mm.
Are you possessed? Is it a
You know,
demon
you know,
under the bed?
you know, I got, it's crazy that he said that. No, I'm not possessed, number one. Ain't no demons up in me. Now, can I get to the point where I get ticked off and someone may think there's something up in me? But that's just my passion. But I just love how when you talked about, a lot of these churches, they see you coming, they're gonna talk about, oh, God put this on my heart to change up my message today. Cause you see, you know, lesbian walking in your church, and now you want to change up the word for the day. Come on, man, that ain't happen. Because God loves everybody. He crazy about me. I tell people that all the time. But now I ain't got no demon up in me. But I've seen plenty of videos where parents have taken their kids to church, and I forget what it's called, spiritual warfare or whatever, trying to bring demons out. And I know it's all fake. Ain't nothing happening really like that. I'm sorry. And then they'd be like, "Did you see it?" I'm looking, I ain't see nothing come from nowhere. I would have felt something, but nah, I don't believe it. I don't believe that. And that's something that's been passed. I'm one of those, I'm 52. I came out when I was 16, and that's something that my gay mom and dad talked about and educated us on, because that used to be a rumor back in the day, like we possessed with something's in our body. We need to take you to church to get it out. That's crazy. I'm gonna leave it there.
Thank you, Vonda. I'm about to put Donna up here.
I'm
Are
so
you
like this.
possessed?
Yeah, I'm possessed with Janelle Monet. That's who I'm possessed with. But no, I'm not possessed. I'm not possessed. And also with the they think we crazy too. Like we got mental issues, So they want us to get therapy. They want us to see a therapist because something is not right up here because we gay. We get so bad. We get so much bad stipulations on why we are what we are. It's sad, but no, I'm not possessed. I had no demons. My house is clean. I had blessed my house before I moved in here. No, I'm good. I ain't got no demons. I don't go to church because there are demons in them churches.
Ooh, Tim,
No,
you next. Are you possessed? Do you have a demon in you?
You let me eat too much dairy? Absolutely. It's a demon in me, and it has to get out. Um, but no, being serious about the question, um, I'm not possessed, but we all have. demons. That cigarette that you can't put down, that's a demon.
Alcohol.
That alcohol that you can't put down, that's a demon. That food that you can't put down, that's a demon. The fact that you got to
Mhm.
have sex anytime that you woke, that's a demon. So, I mean, we all have demons, but I'm not possessed because I'm the way I am.
Right.
That's no, no. But where we were raised, yeah, our families will take us to church and try to have the demon cast out, and you will be there all day long.
They're creating a service for you. They usually have two
Right,
services. They have the third service after the second.
right. And you be praying, you be praying for something abnormal to happen just so you can, so
Right.
that the pastor can say that's you be hoping a bird fly in the church or a cricket squeak or something, just so they
So
could
when
say
they
the
say
demon is out.
That's
it's the demon that's making you be gay, is that a demon inside of them that's making them go against what you actually are?
right.
It's foolishness. So
Well,
I
see,
don't know.
They find anything just to make us look bad.
I'm gonna put Stan in the hot seat.
uh,
You got a demon.
Yeah, that poem.
Yeah, it's moving the phone.
That's the demon. Uh, no, sometimes we all want to be good. Um, People like us when we bad. Um, it's like when you look at the sins is with church, and you look at what's the two biggest sins? I would say
Gluttony.
jealousy and envy.
I say gluttony.
Jealousy and envy causes harm, but the rest of the sins we do get a certain degree of pleasure from those. So, and think about it, we do get a certain degree of pleasure from those sins, but jealousy and envy are the two biggest sins that cause harm to people. So no, I'm not possessed, but I don't put myself in a box. And so it's a fun question. So I'm gonna say in a fun way, people love me when I'm bad, and I do get a certain degree of pleasure from the other sins, but I don't indulge in jealousy and envy. Are you laughing?
God. Oh my God. This question is this a funny question? But historically speaking, right? And I'm going to answer the question. When they say that LGBTQ plus people have demons, if you look historically, we were your spiritual advisors back in ancient times. And I would ask anyone that's on here to go ahead and do your research. Look up Anana, which is a Mesopotamian god. She was worshipped by a council of trans women. So even in Indian cultures, we were your spiritual advisors. And if you pay attention, a lot of your psychics that you like to talk to and dial into on the internet, they are a part of the community. So
Mhm.
I don't think that we have a demon in us, and we might be a little bit
Mhm.
more in touch with God than you. So do your research.
Yeah.
So the next question. Um, oh wow. Now, this is a funny one too. I think it's funny because I know I experienced it, right? So, typically black families, some do, but most don't send you to conversion therapy when they think you're, LGBTQ plus or trans attracted, right? But
Yeah.
our community within our homes, we have our own kind of black conversion therapy. You know what I'm talking about,
Mhm.
y'all. When your parents sense that, oh no,
Yeah.
it's something a little
Something is wrong
different
with
about
you.
this
Yeah.
child. We
Mhm.
gotta turn on and put them through the black conversion therapy camp. Just to give an example, again, because this is in black, if you are a Caucasian person watching, an Indian person, you may not know what we're talking about. Because we black, we know what we're talking about. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you an example. My nephew, we went to Disneyland and we went into the Walt Disney store, and everybody was allowed to pick out things. My two daughters, my son, and my nephew. My two daughters picked out tutus. My son picked out some type of t-shirt with a graphic print on it, and my nephew picked out a tutu. And it turned into a big fiasco inside the Disney because he wanted a tutu. And in our black conversion therapy way, the lights clicked on into my in-law's brain. Oh no, we got to get him around boys. Let's take the tutu. Let's take anything colorful out of his bag. And he
Mm-mm.
needs to wear whatever the other grandchild wears. And he needs to be around him because he's masculine. That is black conversion therapy. Have you guys experienced any of it? And I'm going to just take a cue from the questions, with the clothing, the toys, the sports, the food, the friendships, anything. You know how our parents do black conversion therapy, based off gender roles or anything that you could think of. I'm going to start with Zay and Andre. Did you go through black conversion therapy?
Never been through therapy for it, but they do label. Like for me growing up, they did label a lot of like, boys don't do this, girls don't do that, or boys only play with this, girls only play with that. Like for instance, I'm gonna say when it came to Barbies, Barbies just are for the women, but if they're only for the girls, why do they make boy Barbies and call them something different other than a Barbie? It's like a GI Joe or some type of robotic something. But in the reality, they're all still a Barbie. So it's like if the woman can play with it, the man can play with it. But why does that make you gay? Because that's what you like.
I think it was the fact that they didn't mind you playing with the Barbies. It was just when you undress the Barbie and leave a male Barbie undressed, it might become an issue in the black household. But um, for me, my mother was strict with boys only like the color blue, which was apparently a lie because my favorite color is red. Um,
I've always
it
liked
was
red.
always, real boys play sports. Um, I didn't have that issue. I had a job. You keep your trophy. I can buy one. Um, so it was always this is what boys do. Like I was a wrestling buff, so I love wrestling, pro wrestling. But we all wrestled in the community. But because I was also a community activist when I started the drill team, it was an issue. It's like, what do you start the drill team for? Then mind you, fact that I like literally had at least 40 girls that were not running the streets throughout the whole summer or throughout the whole year, and they all have become productive in their own individual lifestyles. And forget about all the fact that I had 30 young men on the drum corps, and I did all this at 16. You know what I mean? But for her, it was just boys don't do uh, drill teams. Boys don't do community work. Boys don't. And so I had got to a point. She said it around my granddad, and it irked me. So I got to a point where I asked her, well, "What have you really accomplished?" And that shut her down right there.
Yeah, I agree with that
So
because for me, it was like in camps and stuff like that. I wanted to play with the boys. I'm okay with the sports, but in the reality of it, they had a cheerleading team. I was more excited for the cheerleading than to be with the sports, but
mhm,
I had to have a label because boys don't ain't into cheerleading. Boys don't cheerlead.
yeah, yeah. It was always boys don't, boys don't, boys don't. She had an issue that my best friend was younger than me, even though he was a boy. So it was. I just got to a point where you can't please everybody. Um, and for me, it just I've learned to be me, unapologetically me. That's my life, literally my life philosophy. I am unapologetically me, and I don't apologize for who I am. And because of who I am, I've broken a lot of barriers, and I've accomplished a lot of accomplishments that most boys that she wanted me to be around didn't accomplish. I later on in life, I actually came back to her and I said, it's funny because the same boys you wanted me to be just like, every last one of them have a record.
Wow. Vonda, you up next in the hot seat. Did you experience any kind of black conversion therapy in home?
Shoot, man. I remember one time, right? I don't even know. I don't think my mom. Okay, my mom hated the fact that I never wanted to wear these dresses, right? Cause it ain't my thing. I mean, and I would always put shorts or jeans on under the dresses, and I remember my mom wore my behind out because I had jeans on under the dress, but that's how I was comfortable. I just didn't like wearing dresses, and I hated when I had to, because I always used to question everything. Who said you had to wear a dress going to church? You know,
No.
and I remember one time I had this T-shirt on that said "the best under the sun." That's when I realized that my grandfather he slapped me so hard, and it's because we got them T-shirts from my mom's job. Go down to the beach in Ocean City. She worked at Peninsula General Hospital. They give you a shirt every year, and it just said "the best under the sun." And my grandfather smacked me so hard, and then my mom, I can't really say nothing about the sports because I think our family. I think they thought like for me and my brothers that sports was gonna take us somewhere. But I never had no. I don't think I had no type of conversion therapy other than when my mom found out I was gay. I was in the car with her and we was having a heated discussion, and she was flying. I thought she was gonna try to kill us. I guess she thought she could scare it out of me. I don't know. Ain't happened. I don't really think I had no type of convert because my dad loved me. I ain't had no problems. It was getting my mom on track. My grandmother just I couldn't bring nobody around her. And she didn't like my haircut. So I guess that could be conversion
Dang.
therapy. Yeah, because I had a boy, had a top,
You
I
was
was
always into your hair being low cut.
no, my hair when I came out, I went because I had a jerry curl. Back then you got jerry curl, and I had it long on one side, short on the other, but had the sides faded, right? And then I went when I went to college, I went to like a box haircut, like kid and play type thing. My grandmother didn't like that, so what I had to do was make it a little extra wet, make it curly, and have a little curl dangling in the front, make it look a little feminine, so I didn't look so boyish. But yeah, but I don't know. I try to respect my grandmother's wishes. My grandmother did a lot for me. And so I try to respect her wishes. She's the matriarch of our family when she was living. But after that, I go back to me.
Thank you,
I don't
Vonda.
think I had no conversion therapy like what I've seen people go through. Kids get the parents thinking they can whip their booties and whip it out of them. I never had none of that. I just had stern conversations. My mom would just come at me because she just couldn't believe I was, you know, a lesbian.
All right. Thank you, Vonda. I'm going to put Donna in the hot seat.
Okay, so who was supposed to give me conversion therapy?
Did you have any in home in black conversion therapy
I
to
told you
stop
my mom
anything
already. I told you
being
my
gay?
mom already knew I was what I was, because like I told you last session we had, my mom's had made me a she used to sew. So I told you when I went with my cousins to go see the Wiz, she made me this yellow. It was like a pantsuit, a very masculine pantsuit. So no, my mom's not gonna put me in no conversion therapy. Like I said, I grew up just with my mom and my brother. I didn't have a big family. I didn't know my grandmother. I didn't know my father. It was just me, my mom, and my brother. So my brother loved me. My mom loved me. So no, I didn't have no therapy, no conversion therapy. Nobody wanted to change me. They loved me how I was and how I am. So So like I said, no big family, so I didn't have to worry about all that. So no, I didn't have no conversion, nobody telling me I was crazy, I need therapy because I'm gay and I shouldn't be this way. I played with GI Joe. I played basketball, I played softball, soccer. I did all types of sports. Like I said, my mom loved me for me. She didn't want me to change for nobody. So like I said, I don't have those type of stories growing up. My growing up in my environment with my mom and my brother was perfect. I was able to be me. I didn't have to do nothing to change me. I was able to be free. So even my family, the little small family that I had from my mom's side, everybody loved me. I didn't grow up like that. Only problems I had in the streets were probably strangers, men, mainly men calling me dykes. That's it. But other than that, I didn't have my life growing up, coming out and being who I was. I had no issues with nobody.
Oh,
So I don't
Donna
have those
was
type of
blessed.
stories. I don't have those type of stories.
You are blessed. I'm gonna bring up Tim. Tim, any kind of conversion
Yeah,
therapies?
of course. Well, first things first. Anything that my mother was masculine enough, she didn't entertain. So, from first grade all the way up to 11th grade, I always had my artwork from school featured in art exhibits. And year after year, I would win ribbons and place. I've never once saw any of my exhibits in person. Um, and then I was in the house for a long period of time where I couldn't get out and mingle with the other boys because I was always babysitting. But baby, when I finally got out that house, um, I just naturally wanted to be with my male friends. And even now, most of my friends are heterosexual, um, because I never stopped doing the things that I did, and I never stopped living the way that I lived before I came into the lifestyle. Like, even though I'm into certain aspects of the gay lifestyle, my every day is still pretty much the same as it was before I became one of the gays. Um, but it's my mother wouldn't allow me to be a part of anything she didn't feel was masculine. Um,
Did he freeze?
Okay.
no, my phone is
Oh hey.
shutting down.
Uh oh, his phone is shutting down. Okay.
I'm
Great.
sorry, I was on mute. So,
Oh,
what about you, Stan? Did your mother or father try to implement ways to stop you from being trans attracted? Any kind of black conversion therapies in home?
no. Um, what I will say is that what my mother used to do was she used to hit me to a lot of things, and just like what everybody's saying that the parents want them to relate to things that are, the guys with masculine things or the girls with feminine things. One of the things my mother hit me to was when I wanted to play baseball, I wanted to play football, I wanted to be on those teams. She hit me even especially when I wanted to be in the Boy Scouts, and she made me aware that all these masculine things is where you can get the most abuse because we put our children in these situations where this is the man thing to do, but those are where the people that were molesting you were. The scout captain was molesting the boys. The priest was molesting the boys. The coach of the baseball team, the football team. And these are things when the parents put us in those situations and say, hey, you got to be in this because it's masculine. That's where the abuse takes place, because we're in our mind, that's where we're supposed to be men, but yet we can't talk about it then. You got boys abused by priests that couldn't talk about it to their parents. You got boys in the Boy Scouts that couldn't talk about being abused by the scout leader because of what the parents put them in, because we was put into these macho, masculine situations. So a lot of times the parents, when they do that, and one thing my mother hit me to, you can play football, you can do basketball, you can do all these, but be hip to certain situations that some of these men that you admire can do to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So she kept that in my brain. If they ever come to you with this, if the Boy Scout captain comes to you with that, you know, she made me aware of these things where I could sit back and I can come home and talk to her. I had friends that was in the Catholic Church that got molested by priests, but they couldn't say nothing to their parent because the parent would jump them for talking bad about Father Johnson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my mother made me understand, yeah, these macho things that's supposed to be done, you know, there's some men that's going to do some harm to you. So some of the times our parents put us in these situations to be damaged, where the father will put you in there because I want to make you a man, I want you to play football, and I want you to do this. And then there's some abuse in there you can't talk about to them. I had girls in the neighborhood, and we talk about Barbie dolls, but I enjoy being around the girls because I got to be Ken, you know? I got to be the Ken doll. So, and I had no problem with that. You know, I got to be Ken, so I got to do that. But my mother hit me to a lot of things with it because she saw a lot. She saw things with my father, you know, and she made me aware. And I'm glad she made me aware of those things, because when I did go play sports, and certain coaches would come to me about certain things, or want to take me to the side after practice and let's go do this. She made me aware of these things, you know. So sometimes our parents can put us in these situations and say, hey, this is a masculine thing to do, I'm gonna turn you into a man. Actually, they actually setting you up to be gay, or setting you up to like certain things, or setting you up to think this is the thing to do. You know, I grew up, my mother was a single mother raising 3 boys. And I'm gonna tell you, she always talked to us, made us aware of things, let me be me, you know, those kind of things. We know, but she made me aware, and didn't have me follow what the macho thing was. Oh, Stan don't play football, so he got to be this. There was no guilt thing with that at all. You know, nothing. I like fashion, I like clothes. You know, she helped me pursue that. You know, just and made me aware. So I avoided a lot of abuse, and I avoided a lot of mental issues. You know, I really did. I avoided a lot of the mental things because it was never set up that this is what I'm supposed to believe. So I didn't sit back and have conflicts on, oh, wow, I mean, you know, my football coach came at me, my football coach is gay, my football coach is that. When I found out that certain people were gay or came at me, I was prepared for it. You know, so no, there was no you know, she never sat back and had me like with any of that stuff. It was, you know, I love my mom to death because she allowed me to be me, and she allowed my 2 brothers to be me, you know. And then by her letting me be me, my 2 brothers, older brothers, allowed me to be me. And when I talk about people and with like, when I look at all these kids out here selling drugs and gang banging, they're only doing it because they don't respect their parents. If you respect your parents, there's certain things you're just not going to do. And no matter what, my mother raised 3 boys in Chicago in the 70s with all the gangs going on. None of us ever did nothing, and the gang bangers respected my mother because, like I said, we respected my mother. And so
Right.
my whole point is, I'm not gonna do nothing to hurt my mama because she working her ass off for us. So we
Mhm.
always respect her. So that's why I never did nothing to ever ruin that. And she allowed us. And like I said, we didn't have a father. And guess what? We never missed the father.
Me neither.
I never missed having a dad. It's like if I had a father, that could have probably fucked me up. But my mother never let us miss. I never, I didn't miss that. My mother was everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
know
Thank
it's a
you,
little fierce.
Stan. Yeah, that was a good
Mhm.
explanation. So
Yep.
I'm going to take the time to answer the question before we get to the last question, and then you guys might want to ask each other questions in the end. As far as the in-home conversion therapy piece, I feel like I experienced it, and it from two different angles. My grandfather wanted me to take the mantelpiece and imposing masculine, I guess, centered things on me. And then my grandmother seeing me doing these masculine centered things like moving
She's
furniture
changing
or
all
wanting to
y'all.
learn to sheetrock and do all of these things. She would remove me from doing that and say, okay, don't do that with your grandfather. Take these little figurines and paint this. I wanted to dress down in the t-shirts and ball caps. No, how about this? Let's get the sewing machine. Take that baseball cap and let's sew a dress on the sewing machine. So, you know how we are. You don't wear the blue, you wear the pink. Get over there to the pink. Put Ken down, put down G.I. Joe. And I'm about to tell my age, y'all. I really wanted a Hess truck. I couldn't have a Hess truck. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Because I was a girl. I couldn't have a Hess truck. Now, one of the things that I find annoying, incredibly annoying, and I hated it for my brother, and it's a lot of males on here. And y'all could tell me if y'all experienced this. My brother, it was an issue with him having lollipops. So black
It's because
conversion.
you sucking on something. That's what that is.
Right.
Right. But the girl can suck on it.
It was an
Hey
issue.
now, don't cut up.
So I'm going to do y'all want to ask each other, do you have any questions? We talked about a lot here.
Yes.
I've learned a lot. Is it any questions that any of you guys want to ask someone on the panel? I'm going to put Donna up first. Do you have a question you'd like to ask anybody on the panel?
Not at this moment. No, I don't. I don't. But
Okay.
I will let you know.
Okay. Smack, do you have a question that you wanted to ask anybody on the panel?
Now I don't have any questions. I just want to know, no, I don't have any questions. Everybody explained everything thoroughly. Stan, um,
Yeah.
makes me laugh. I love to hear his answers.
He has some good
Um,
stories.
yeah, he got some good stories. I know he got some even better stories down in there. I just as we get through, I know he's gonna give us some more. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to have someone else that's around, and nothing against the young people, just around my age, Donna and
Yeah.
Stan, and because we would definitely came into this world a whole lot different than the younger generation,
Mm-hmm.
especially coming from a smaller city. So and
Yeah.
back then you just didn't go out and blast, oh, I'm a lesbian. Just
No,
not
you
something you
didn't.
did. And
Nope.
high with public displays of affection with my other half now, I would never done that
Back
when I
then.
first came out. In the first
Mm-hmm.
10, 15 years of me being LGBTQ, it's just me being a lesbian was hard. And so it feels good to be on a panel with people who can share that, that same experience, because how the time was,
Yeah.
back then.
Came
I
a
said, I
long
don't
way.
have no real deep questions yet, but I know as we
Yeah.
go, I'm gonna have some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mr. Lev. Okay. What about Andre and Zay? Do y'all have any questions for Anyone that's on the panel, anything that you heard here and you wanted to ask. Zay, you have a question?
Yeah, so like I don't necessarily like judge anybody for what they believe, but Stan, I just wanted to know, like you said, you straight, but you like the trends. What is the difference between messing with a man physically that looks like you versus something that doesn't look like you, but we know are the same?
And we date is a lot. But the thing is, I'm not attracted to people that look like me. You know, I've never been attracted to a man, you know, in that sense. I like the feminine, the beautiful part of women, and I guess there might, and I guess for the trans women, it is a certain degree of masculinity with that too. And then there is because you know they have penis. So I just don't look at a guy that looks like man and say, oh, he's nice, or damn, he's fine, or whatever. I never get attracted. And I got gay friends all the time that sit back and they really have issues with that. I mean, gay guys have issues. Like, what's the difference, Dan? What's the difference? And the difference is I got a woman that just happens to have a penis. And that's really what it is. You know? And I don't date post-op women. I prefer my women to have and enjoy their penis. I'm a versatile guy, so I like the versatility of it, and I have no problem meeting and knowing women like that. Matter of fact, I know most of the trans women I know are strictly top. That's all they want to do. So I'm just not attracted to a man, and I can't see myself with a man, you know. And like I said, I got gay friends all the time, and they have more issues with it than I do. They you know, I got a friend right now, Richard, that just can't take it. And what is the difference? What's the difference? You know, penis is a penis, you know, but you're a nice looking guy, but I can't lay down with you.
Well, I understand because
You
I'm
know,
the same way. Because I can understand Stan because I'm a woman and I would not date another masculine centered woman.
okay,
I have
yeah,
to date a woman that's feminine that
feminine,
dresses like a woman. So I
mm-hmm,
get what he's talking about. I get
yeah,
it.
you know,
I really get it. I
I can explain
understand.
that. You know, I can't put a definition on, like, I know you can't put a definition on it, like, okay, hey, you know, it's a definition with this. It is what it is.
I
And,
understand.
you know, I can't date men. I don't find men attractive. You
Understand
know,
that.
I just don't, you
Okay.
know. So, you know, and it's you know what, that's a whole nother story
Oh
or
yeah, another whole session.
Another show.
because,
That's a whole nother show.
you know, just even when the makeup comes off and the wig comes off, you know what I'm saying? And that's a whole story.
It probably sends you into another state of mind.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
You
for
know,
me.
when she take the wig off and I got more hair than she got.
Oh
So that's
wow,
a
my
whole
goodness.
that's a whole different show right there.
That's a whole different
No,
show.
I'm just saying because, like, for me, like when I first started messing with like the men and women, I was like, okay. When it came to the trans, I was like, oh no, I could never mess with the trans because it's like if I'm gonna mess with the man, I'm gonna mess with the man. I'm gonna mess with the woman. I'm gonna mess with the woman. But I
Right.
do realize because everybody's built different, they give
Hmm.
off different emotions. They give off different vibes.
Right.
So if you keep yourself in a box, you'll never be able to experience something else because not everyone's love.
Right.
So I do understand
Mm,
that part.
Yeah.
mm.
So
And like I
I
said, I went through the transition of it when I mean, oh God, I can tell you one story. I was with the most beautiful girl in the world, and she had to go home, and she said, well, I can't go home with this makeup on. I got to go home as a
right.
man. when she took that shit off, it was like blew my damn. I was like, oh god,
Oh,
what I
oh
do?
my God. Listen, we are into it. Like I said, this panel, man.
Beyonce back.
It's a whole nother show. We can talk about this panel. I love you guys, but oh, so I have a question for one of the panelists. Um, we've heard a lot of people say a lot of things tonight. Funny, heartbreaking, heart wrenching. And I wonder for Donna, how does that make you feel just hearing the stories that your LGBTQ plus and trans attracted brothers and sisters experience?
Yeah,
And does that make you want to be more of an advocate for the
sure.
community?
So it breaks my heart that they had to go, you know, through that, especially if it had to do with the family members or family. So it was, yeah, I would love to be an advocate or anything that would help and give knowledge or support. I would love to do that because it's very very heart wrenching and very sad that a lot of people had and their stories are valid and it's heartbreaking towards what they had to go through, and there's a lot of people out there in the world that has so many stories like that and it could be even worse. So I would love to be an advocate or anything that I could do to help.
Thank you, Donna. So the last question, then we're going to close it out. With everything that was said, because again, we said a lot, we laughed, we joked, we did it all here. This panel is fun. Did y'all have fun? Did
Yeah,
y'all
yeah,
enjoy this?
Most
Absolutely.
yeah,
definitely.
yep.
Interesting.
So my last
Yeah.
question is, with all the things we heard about our community and how they judge us and the reasons why they know why we are this way, how do we combat that? How do we just kind of dispel some of these myths? How do we change it? How do
With
we
shows
change it for
like
the
this.
younger community?
Yeah.
I'm going
I
to
just feel
put
like if
each
you
one of y'all
straight,
up there.
I just feel like
I'm
if
going
you
to start
straight,
off with Zay.
yeah,
Go
I just
ahead.
feel like if you straight and you don't have no gay male friends or no lesbian female friends or people in that community, you'll never really understand it until you put yourself around that scenario or in the situation. Like I got friends that are not necessarily gay, they're straight, but because they know what I like, they'd be like, let me give a night a try out in your world to see what it's like versus our
Mm.
world. Put myself there. I don't want nobody to talk to me or touch me, but I just want to be around to see what y'all see versus what we see or how the incomes be different.
Okay.
Wow.
Andre, how could we change this?
I think the first thing that we have to do is really just get educated. That's why we have organizations like, IME and other organizations that are out here that have to be imperative at this season to, especially to the African American community. Because I have learned being in this community field before I was ever LGBTQ. I was always active with places like Trevor's House and other organizations. There are plenty of non-African American organizations that could never speak on behalf of an African American LGBTQ member. And so if you don't know something, the first thing you have to do is get educated so you're not dumb. The next thing you got to do, because when you make yourself smarter, you also make yourself non-ignorant. And so the other thing you can do is take the time to actually say, okay, I might not be gay, but let me actually volunteer for a Pride Fest. Let me volunteer for this Pride organization's event, just to be able to offer my support. My mom's not gay, but if you tell her it's a drag show coming, she gonna be the first one getting a ticket because she loves she loves drag shows. I took her to Pride and she lost her mind. She was like, "When we going to the next one?" Because it was a different atmosphere. People were free to be themselves. They didn't have to worry about how people were looking at them and what people felt about them and what people said about them. They was we us. We just be us. And if you don't like how I am, we don't deal with you. We good. And so that's the thing. And then realize too that, because I'm LGBTQ don't mean I'm screaming out, oh, look at me. For me, this is not this is not a statement. This is who I am. And I think that's the difference between a lot of people. You are you, I am me, but this is who I am. Receive me. And I'm okay with being me. I don't have to do things to be seen. And I've learned, that's why, like, even with me, with the community, I teach a lot of young. I'm in education, and when I have young African American people who are in the LGBT community, I teach them first. This ain't a statement. This ain't a oh, look at me moment. Like, get your head out of baddies. Get your head off of what you see on TV, and let's just be yourself and let people love you for you, because a lot of people would never respect your choice, because when you jump into it, you jump into it for what you see and not for who you are. And so we have to educate ourselves first on who we are, but then we have to educate those attached to us.
Wow, that was
Mhm.
powerful and great information. Vonda Smack, how do we change these
Hey,
thoughts, these misconceptions?
I've been told you this long time ago. Education is key, and then network is key, but definitely education is key. Um, People need to be educated. A lot do not know a lot about our community, and I think there needs to be more open panel discussions about our community so that people can understand it. And I think, I really applaud my brothers, because when you had Peach Radio, Peach ENT, and you were doing your radio show, my brother and I had weekly conversations about the different things that you spoke on. Me, because of who I am, as a community organizer, you know, I tell people, there's something you don't understand, ask. And I mean that on every level. Um, but I sort of mingle in with everybody, but I think education, because I'll correct you in a minute. If I hear something disrespectful, I'll correct you right on spot. I mean, I'm not gonna be nasty about it. I'm like, I'll pull you to the side and be like, yo, what you just said to some would be very, be offended by in my community. And the proper way that you would say it is this way, not that way, not what you were taught. Because what you was taught was incorrect. So I think if, people in our community could remain calm instead of getting mad, voice going up 3 and 4 octaves, and the letter and the A, B, C, it's just not warranted to do that, because some people really don't know. So you got to educate them. You got to let them know what it is, and if it's, lots of times, because I ain't gonna lie to you, I get offended when people call me sir. Some of my LGBT friends that are masculine centered would let it slide. I don't. I tell them it's ma'am. Some think because of the way they see me dress, they think that I'm masculine centered, as Donna has puts it. I'm just a woman who likes to wear men clothes. Because that's where I feel comfortable in. So a lot of the myths need to be, these myths that people believe in, these stereotypes gotta be broken down. Is from education.
Do you
Thank
think
you. I'm
do
gonna
you think a
bring
lot of myths
on.
also come from when it be like, to be gay is to be gay, but like, do you feel like people put too much thought in when they be like, because you're a woman or because you're a male, y'all supposed to look one type of way versus looking the other way? Like, do you think people put too much thought in because he's a man, but he wants to be a woman? what does that send off? Or because she's a woman, she looks like a man, but does that put you in the same mindset? Or do you think
Yeah, because
more for one than the other?
then when it get, yeah, I, yeah, because a lot of dudes get mad. Like my male dudes, they know what gonna throw me off, and just because of what you see on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that's how I try to carry it. Because I know me, I got some girly stuff with me. Because I don't do the small bugs. I'll scream like a girl in a minute. Um, there's just certain things, I'm really, where with some, like my girls say, it's kind of girly. Um, I got some girly ways with me still. I'm not. That's why I don't like being called a stud because I don't like labels. I always tell people I'm a smack, and they be like, "What's a smack?" And I'd be like, "Me,
Me.
I'm me."
Because it's not so much of like what we portray on the outside. It's more of the what you feel at heart, right?
Yep, yep, yep. And I'm gonna tell you, and I wish Tim was still on here because he could uh he could just confirm this.
Oh, there he
Before I
Yeah.
moved to
goes.
before I moved
You
to
know, called
Delaware,
the
right?
Lord.
Oh, there go Tim. Before I moved to Delaware, I was a girl that always wore a blue t-shirt, blue jeans, and Chuck Taylors. That was my thing. Like my clothing was just blue jeans, blue t-shirts, and I had Chuck Taylors and all kinds of Chuck Taylors. And it wasn't until I moved to Delaware I started changing up my color, my colors. I never been somebody who wore all this. I just started wearing t-shirts with
I
sayings
always
on
love
it
color.
because of how I was raised. You know what I'm saying? And but the one thing I can't stand, and I hope my male friends can hear this, because when they don't get their way with me, and it could be a ride or something, or just mad because I don't agree with how they agree. They always say, "Oh, you just mad because you don't have a what between your legs." I never, and it ticks me off because you don't understand my community. I don't want that between my legs. I like what I got,
Exactly.
and those things are hurtful because that's why I try not to hold people to a higher caliber, especially men, because you always get that backlash when they want to, you're not saying something right, or you're not going along with the show. They get mad and they want to say the most negative thing, and that's how they come at it. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying? And I'd be like, man, we've been friends for 10 years. You really don't know me.
Yeah, it'd be like that. So for the whole
Yeah,
panel, do y'all feel like in our community it's harder for the men of being a part of the community, or for the women, or about equal? Equal.
Men.
men.
Wow.
It's harder for the men because it's a lot more. It's a lot more to what our portion of the lifestyle consists of.
Yeah, because they could see two
And I'm 50
females.
years old, 30, 30 plus years. So I've had a chance to see what my female friends, my lesbian friends have went through, as well as my
Mhm.
experiences and what my friends have went through. It's a lot more complicated for the men. Not slighting anything that the women
And
go
I'm
through,
from,
because women
Yeah.
women go through different things and different prejudices. We all go through it, but it's all different with all of us. Like
yeah, and I'm going to
people,
speak on the term of black
gays,
men.
Yeah, definitely.
gays,
Black men,
gays,
black gay men got it wrong.
right? And gay men, feminine gay men, and the gay community actually think that masculine gay men have it easier, and they don't realize people group us with the whole DL stigma.
Hmm.
So we get a whole other different kind of shit that goes along with the prejudice that go along with us. See, men view a feminine man as less of a threat than a big masculine man that could take it if he want to.
Okay.
I mean, because if you see me in real life, I have that stature. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I'm not that type of person. But you know, people see dark skin, they see dreads, they see a big body, they automatically assume negative things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's a different spin on it. I'm sorry.
Yup.
I think I think I don't it seems that it's harder for men because the media portrays it.
Okay.
And I think it's harder for both sides. I just think the woman's side is not depicted as much as the males because we do have the stigma of the down low woman. But imagine a male coming out publicly that dealt with a down low woman and said
Right.
it goes against
Right.
masculinity. And
It's good.
for me,
It's,
I've been in that situation
Okay.
where I am looked at as the pariah, the way that the black community looks at a gay black male. I'm looked at from my in-laws as the gay black male because
Mm.
I was on the down low, and the same way that a male would be treated, they treated me that way.
okay.
They
Yeah.
ousted me out. They stopped talking to me. They closed off from me.
Mhm.
Um, all the things that gay male would feel. I
Okay.
was called the names. I was all of those things.
Because they
Right.
And I
expect
just had
the
to
world for them to be
persist forward.
masculine and women are supposed to be feminine. But in the reality, whether you male or female, you have that masculine trait and that femininity to you.
Well, we all
Right.
have masculine and feminine in us,
Feminine
men, women.
yes.
It's just how
Mm-hmm.
far you go.
Okay.
Yes. But I think we all get it. We get it the same way. It's just men, when it comes to being a woman, it's just not a male is not gonna pour out outward like that. Like a woman would pour out into the public about a male doing something. A
Okay.
man
No,
is not.
no, feminine men really do.
Yeah, well,
They,
feminine men, but
yes,
my
they
like
use
I
it as a
said,
weapon.
my ex-husband just went on, took to social media and yelled out to his family, and they ostracized me. But as far as a group of men going public and making it into movies and all
Right.
this other stuff, like I went through a
Posted
lot.
people
I was going
pages.
through a legal divorce, and he was making profiles of people that were around me and giving it to a lawyer. So I
Wow.
Oh,
went through a
Damn,
lot. So
damn.
it's just men don't carry it the same way as women.
Right.
So
Right.
you don't
Uh-uh.
hear much of it.
Yeah, that's true. I,
Trust me, they don't. I seen it with my
Right.
own eyes.
yeah.
Mm.
I
But
think in the world of today's times, it's harder on a man because most men, especially in the straight community, their biggest fantasy is two women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. That's it. You
So
nailed it.
because
You
their
nailed it.
biggest fantasy is two women, I can accept the fact that because in my head I'm imagining everything they doing to each other. But
Mhm.
And yeah, and
he
he
wants
wants
to
to
right.
join.
join in.
But when you
n-
have two
Look.
men, and
What you
because
say, Miss
like
Fierce?
I one of my biggest arguments in a straight relationship was about a threesome. You know, because I was bi, and I said, well, if we gonna fulfill your fantasy, then we fulfilling mine too. And it's a whole issue when
I've been there.
tell somebody, well, we gonna do the two women, but at the end of the day, we're gonna do two men too. And
When when you get done, I just want to say one brief thing that needs to be said to the heterosexual community. Go ahead and
I
finish, and then
got
I'm
you.
gonna say it.
So for me, it was one of those things of when I first had this conversation with a couple friends of mine, we were in college, and I said, I really feel like the a biggest issue with being heterosexual is your mind is so closed in. It's almost like your mind is trapped in the closet. And at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, you
Hmm.
didn't sat in the locker room and compared. You didn't sat in the locker room and compared our private parts. You didn't sat and listened to my stories about what I've done with who I've done it with, and it didn't turn you on. And then you got a stigma about being gay. Nah, like let's just be real. And I think the biggest issue is if you
Uh-huh.
tried it, you might like it.
okay, we're gonna let Tim say what he's gonna say because we have Stan on here, and we're gonna We done went off to a whole
My bad,
nother
Okay.
Steve. My
segment.
bad.
Okay. And this is something that I had just have to say. Gay men do not like to play and poop. There is those
Facts.
of us who have
Test it.
clean sex, those of us who have clean sex, just like you clean yourself out with a
Yes.
bottle. I hope you clean yourself out with a bottle before you
Yeah.
serve yourself to
That
your
part.
man. Our men do the same thing. They get a bottle and they get all of that out of there. There's nothing brown about our sex but our skin.
Hey, let them know.
I
If you're
wanna
Okay,
if
I
you're
wanna
so
clean,
start that
Please stop
conversation.
so
if
that's
thinking
you're
what
clean, the key word was clean.
my uncle
Exactly.
used to call that. My
clean.
uncle used to call that a Fleetwood enema. He was gay, a faggot douche. Get your faggot douche
Right.
and do it.
Absolutely. And if you like it, they got toys now that look just like it's still an enema, but it's a toy. It's gonna help you prep for
Y'all know
real.
we gotta have like we gotta have
Okay,
another
we gotta
conversation.
try. We need a whole nother show. We need a whole,
Yeah.
and
We
that
gotta have an
applies
open
to
a
And
women
open
black
too.
show
baby.
conversation one night. One of our things gotta
And
just be
this is,
like
listen,
off the top of
y'all.
the heads.
Okay, we're gonna
Yes.
have an open show and just have general conversation. But
Yes.
tonight's topic was I know why you are. And for the people that
But
was just
I mean,
listening,
but come on
It
now,
all ties in.
come on now, Peach. Now if they didn't got the toy, they know why they are too,
Yeah.
uh,
and they know
listen,
at the end of the day they know they clean.
And yeah, and that's a tip for those who are just finding out that they are.
That's
That's how you
it
and,
do it.
because
Don't
it's gonna
don't.
open you
Yo,
and clean you at the same time.
and
Yep.
believe it
yo,
or not,
There
it
you
doesn't
Donna,
go.
just
I'm loving it,
apply to
Donna.
gay
Yeah.
men.
I'm
It
learning.
applies to lesbians because lesbians and pans and bis and dies and days have anal sex. It's
Indeed,
not
they do.
restricted to
It's
It ain't
okay.
to
just
gay
us,
men.
but that's that's a
That's
stereotype that they think
You
it's
got
about
true. And
us.
heterosexual men have
I gotta say
Yeah.
anal
Yes.
heterosexual men too. Absolutely, they get paid.
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But
You know they do, especially when they come home from jail.
That
Mm-hmm.
part.
oh Lord,
That
you know
part.
what? We gonna wrap
We're
this
gonna
up.
wrap this up here,
Yeah.
Stan,
y'all.
did Stan
I'm
want
gonna
to
have
take the floor and
nightmares.
say anything? Let's give Stan the floor. How do we change some of the stigma, Stan? How do we change it?
Number one,
Shows like
platforms
this.
like this. Um, Number two, um, there's things in the community that we're all in the same community that we don't even know about each other. There's things about the lesbian community I don't know. There's things we're learning from each other. So just because we're in the same community doesn't mean that we all know about each other. I learned some things today.
Right.
So, and that's
I've
the
learned
thing.
me too.
And we can't try to convince people. It's like religion. We can't try to convince people to see things our way all the time. And the best way to do that is just for us to be ourselves and for us to be united is what we do. And that's the best thing we can do for outsiders outside this community is just to see how we interact with each other. Because like
Yes.
I say, we're all in the same community, but there's things about you guys I didn't know about. I'm learning some things about lesbians I didn't know. You see? But yet we're in the same community, but we don't know. But we got
I just feel like about being in the community saying you just gotta be open minded.
well, yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole thing. Because why would I be closed minded to anything? I'm not closed minded to anything, and I can't. Anybody that's closed minded, I can't convince them to open their mind.
Right.
I can't do, and I'm not going to try to. Because what do I gain from that? I'm not gaining nothing from that. But I'm open minded to. What gets me is when I sit back and I see people make comments about trans women that top men. People, oh, you got trans girls. Oh, no way. I'm a strict. Why a man that gets topped by a woman, he gay. But yet a straight man and his wife can put a strap on and fuck him in the ass, and yet they're good. That's a free couple.
I
So
told
this
you,
is that
I told
black
you it was
after
a woman
dark.
that told
He
me
ain't
women
gay,
can make
but
you
he a
feel
free
the same
couple.
way that a man can
Exactly. So if I
about
take
how
a
they do
dildo, then there's an issue with me because that's how I'm
I've
identified.
done that before to somebody.
it.
But anyway,
Okay.
let's go through what
Saucy.
have we learned tonight? What have we each learned tonight? And then we're gonna end it off with that until
Yeah.
next week. Tim, what have you learned tonight from all this
Everything.
conversation?
I've learned that I have a lot in common with some of the other panelists, and that we're all living around each other, and there are a lot of things that we do know about each other, and there are a lot of things that we don't know about each other. And I think every show we're going to learn more and more about things in our community that we don't know about. And there's people standing right next to us that we've been around for years, but we don't know actually what they go, what their experiences are like when they're home, their home life.
Right.
So I think this is just like
Good
a
source.
bonding and a learning experience at the same time. I'm loving it.
I know what have you learned tonight,
Cool.
Donna?
Oh, yeah. I've learned. My ears are full with a lot of stuff, but I learned I learned that with these type of platforms and shows that we can get along and respect each other and learn from each other, and it's a good platform to help us to learn, and for other people out there that's listening and watching to learn. And it's all about just getting to know us and know that we are normal people. Just because what we do behind closed doors, we are loving normal people.
What did you learn tonight?
Hey, you know what? I learned just to respect people, listen to people, and listen to a lot of people's backgrounds, their stories, their journey, and understand that because we all got a different journey. And that's one of the things about this community is that a lot of people think we got the same journey and we don't. And just some of the stuff I heard from everybody, I really respect a lot of things that people have gone through. And that's the main thing. Makes me a better person.
Vonda Smack.
Yes.
Good. Vonda,
Yeah,
what have you learned?
I learned tonight that a man put a bottle up there. And I'm serious. I did not know that. I mean, I guess I never, I never asked, but and I don't get into it. I'm
I knew
being
about
honest, but I learned
Don't knock it till
something
you try
tonight.
it.
Because they
Right.
call y'all
No, no,
something
no,
with
no,
a
no, no,
P, they
no,
call the
no, no,
men
no.
something with a B.
Nothing. Deposits only. Withdrawal or however you want to put it. I don't. Nothing's going up there on me.
Right.
But I never knew that, and that just could be just because I never been around males that talk like that. So I'm sorry, I did not know that, but that's
I
good
can
to
agree
know.
with you on that, Vonda, because like for me, I've been in the lifestyle for a long time. But when it comes to like being the person who's giving it versus the person receiving it, I didn't realize that when you're the person that receives, it comes with all that extra stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
So
see,
I definitely feel you on
I'm
that.
not receiving it. You feel me?
Right. Because they like that with
or
like the
give it.
guys who bottom, they can't eat before ahead of time.
I think
So that's why
Okay,
a lot
well,
of
That's
bottoms.
not
it's
Okay,
true.
like when you it's
that's
just
a
like
another
when you have a
show.
that's
dinner.
another show,
That's
Tim.
Wait, wait a
another
minute, another
show.
show.
That's
Yeah,
another
that's
show.
it's
Andre,
Right.
another show. But
Yeah,
I
good
will
show.
Right.
say
Andre,
is
what
But
did
I
you
was just
learn?
hold
I
on, you
was
didn't let me finish what I
Okay, go
learned.
ahead, Smack. What did you learn
Hold on.
besides
I
that?
learned that with this diverse panel, we are going to learn a lot. And I
Right.
think more and more people are going to tune in because we're real with it.
Yeah.
Right.
We ain't holding nothing back. We real with it. and dispelling these myths and stereotypes that they have about the Black LGBTQIA community. So I love that part about this. And that's what I learned tonight, is that we all respect one another, and I love it. I can't wait till next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Zay and Andre, what did y'all learn?
For me, I learned peaches. But nah, I mean, for me, I just learned that you can get a group of people from different walks of life and different age brackets, and they can come together and make a whole lot of sense. Um, I feel like this show is food for the hungry. There are people that are thirsting for this knowledge because they're tired of being ignorant, because they're tired of being unknowledgeable. They're tired of not knowing. I feel like this show has the potential to break boundaries. And I encourage us all to continue to push the show, share the show. Because this is something that people should be able to go on their smart TV and push a button and see. And I enjoyed myself tonight, and I feel there will be people who will call you and say, I ain't know nothing about toys that
The,
flush.
the dush. They gonna ask me about the dush.
But I mean, they might not say Dusha. They might call you and be like, "Hey, what's that toy he was talking about that flush? Because I need that. Because it opens and cleans at the same time. It's a good preparation tool."
Oh God.
Say what you
Oh
learn.
my God.
Yeah, you're right, Pete. I do be starting stuff.
Like
I
things that
do.
I thought about, or things that I wanted questions to, or I never really thought to harp on. You got a lot of that in here, and we all come from different backgrounds and experience different things, but we all have that one thing in common, that it all extends from some type of how we feel for yourself. It's not more so like someone turned me on to this and this is what I decided I wanted to be. It was more like everybody voiced, because for myself, this is what I felt. I've tried this, I've tried that, but this is what worked more for me. Or when it came to like different viewpoints, I feel like Tim and Andre, their points were like 100 with each other. They bounce off one another, but they both get deep into it. Like the way they think of it is just open. It's not just like, okay, this is the question that they ask, I'm gonna keep it here. They think outside of that box. So that gave us a different type of viewpoint.
Yeah, I think the panel in itself is great. I really enjoyed everything here. For the people that are watching now and will watch later, hopefully you join us next Tuesday. I don't know what the topic will be, but I will let y'all know throughout the week. And hey, I'm just like everybody else on this panel. This is a great learning experience.
Yeah.
Share this live with your loved ones. Share it with, particularly for me, homophobes.
Yes.
Let them watch, hear, see that we are people, we have experiences, and sometimes the way that you believe we came to in existence isn't the way
Not the way.
it actually is. And you have gotten various opinions here. So, with that being said, I hope y'all go visit imecorp.org. And Black actually has a group that all of you guys can join and actually have discussions about some of this stuff in private and in Black, right?
Hmm.
So, with that being said, I love all of y'all. Thank y'all for giving IME y'all time. And let's tell the people good night until next
Good night.
Tuesday.
Next week.
Good
It
night,
was a pleasure.
everybody.
It was a pleasure. Can't wait.